Hello, welcome back to the City Girl Writer channel, and today I'm going to be doing a March wrap-up. And March was a time, things definitely happened, reading-wise and just life-wise. Well, first off, thank you to everyone who's wished me happy birthday and came to my birthday reading sprints on Tuesday. I'm recording this on the 31st, so it's Friday night. So I just want to thank you all for coming to the reading sprints. And also thank you to everyone as well who are on my Instagram or my other social medias that wish me happy birthday. Thank you again. I appreciate all the wishes and stuff. I actually did have a really good birthday. But y'all are here for the books. So as far as the reading month, it started off okay. We started rocky, and then it kind of went downhill, but then we spiked it right back up to my usual good Brit books. So, yeah, honestly, March was definitely a month. It was definitely a time. So, let's get through our stats quickly. Just start off. So, as far as number of books, I have actually read 12 books this month, which is the most I've ever read in any given month. I've never read this many books in one month. I mean, at first, I thought January would be a lot with reading 10, but now March being 12? I'm proud of myself for that. I truly am proud of myself for that. And for the number of pages, I've read 3,609 pages. As far as the format, 67% were physical reads, and 33% were audiobooks. So reading books physically was definitely a thing I just wanted to do this month. And as far as average rating, it's a 3.9, which is low. I have not, this is one of my lower average ratings so far. But honestly, let's just get into all the reads. So first up, we have Man-Made Monsters. This one I read via audio. And I read it for the Full Moon Book Club. Full Moon Book Club is hosted by Jan from Jan Agaton. And I gave this book 3 stars. Now, what is this book about? This is a YA horror short story collection written by an indigenous author. And I don't really remember much about it because I did read it earlier this month. But honestly, the book itself was kind of forgettable for me. I'm sorry. This short story collection was pretty forgettable. I definitely came into mind thinking that would be adult horror. I literally had no idea this was going to be YA horror. But I want to say that I couldn't really care too much on the characters themselves in any of these short stories. Also, I honestly didn't care a lot about it. I thought that the use of the horror was actually pretty unique as far as like the use of werewolves and vampires and mixed in with the indigenous culture and like actual real life horror that indigenous people still face. So I think that part was definitely very, very good. But everything else I will have to say is pretty much just like I could care less. So I'm sorry, but I was not having a good time with this one. I might have enjoyed it more or maybe remembered more about this one if I read it physically instead of via audio. I mean, the audiobook is still good, but like I think for this kind of a short story collection, it would be better read physically because the short stories are actually connected to each other through a family tree, which I didn't really realize until I got closer to the end of the collection. Which is definitely on my part in that one, but this one just wasn't for me. I think I could recommend it to other people, but you will have to check content warnings because of there's a lot of dark subject matter in that short story collection. So if you want to read it, you can read it. I'm not going to stop you, but definitely check on content warnings. And now for the next book, I have read Harrow the Ninth by Tamsin Muir. Let's see. This one is the sequel to Gideon the Ninth, which I did read in January. This one follows Harrow known as Jesmus, and of course the subsequent events that happened after Gideon the Ninth. Now, if you don't know anything about this series, this is Harrow the Ninth is book 2 in the Locked Tomb series. Originally, it was a trilogy, but Muir was like, well, we kind of need to split this third book into 2 books. So that's how Nona was born. So I'm definitely looking forward to reading Nona. But as far as the series itself, we followed Gideon Nav, who was an indentured servant to the Ninth House. She was trying to escape, but Harrow, known as Jesmus, wants to achieve immortality, Liz Lichterhood, and needs a cavalier. So she enlists Gideon to be her cavalier. And yeah, this is an adult sci-fi fantasy series. It is a confusing series. It's definitely, I will have to say, convoluted. I still think this story is convoluted, despite me giving this 4.75 stars. Like, it was almost 5 stars, y'all. It was very close to being 5 stars. I just didn't give it the 5 stars because a couple of reasons. One, I got a little bit confused, despite also me annotating this book. Like, I was annotating a lot about this, okay? I didn't put too much stuff in the margins or anything, but I definitely highlighted, underlining things, boxed some things. I had post-it notes on here. So I definitely was following along with this story a lot more than I did with Gideon the Ninth, which is really, really good. So I'm definitely understanding the world more. However, I will have to say that I still think the story is just convoluted. Like, I don't understand why it would be this confusing. In fact, Harrow the Ninth, I will have to say it's even more confusing than Gideon. If you were confused with Gideon, Harrow is even more confusing because we have 2 alternating timelines. And this book is half and half written in second person, will also be written in third person, which can be very confusing to a reader. So know that going in, that if you're going to read Harrow the Ninth after reading Gideon, you might need some time in between the books because this book is going to confuse you like a lot. But I honestly loved Harrow. I always loved Harrow as a character in like Gideon the Ninth, but then now here, I appreciate her and love her even more than ever. And this book actually also gave me way more straightforward explanations to, like, the world building. Like, y'all, I was really confused with the world in Gideon the Ninth, but then again, now that I've finally actually read Harrow the Ninth, I'm starting to understand why Gideon was confusing with its world, because Gideon is someone who doesn't fully understand necromancy, but like here, we're following Harrow, who is a necromancer. So it definitely makes sense as to why the world is at least explained a little bit more here. But then again, maybe it was just the second book in the series and Mira just needed to explain all the things that was going on. But I will just have to say that, yeah, I really, really loved Harrow the Ninth. And I'm looking forward to Nona. But again, the only way I've ever read this series is hybrid reading it. I had to get an audiobook because Morwa Quirk as a narrator for this series is just impeccable. I love the voices. I like her accent with the story. Like, everything that this narrator has done to narrate this series is honestly amazing. But I will have to say, though, another thing I find interesting is that there's a lot of I have noticed the literary references here more than Gideon. I think there were some literary references in Gideon the Ninth, but I couldn't pay it. Again, the world was very confusing, so I couldn't notice all those things, especially with Gideon as the narrator. And she was so unserious, so there was no way I was going to notice all those things. But now I'm playing with Harrow, I'm noticing a lot more. I mean, I think actually this book just had a lot more literary references. I found the literary references is very interesting. But also, the thing, though, that really shocked me about this book is that God had a threesome. Okay, he had a threesome. Okay, but anyways, the next book I read in March was actually my very first reread. This is the first time I've ever reread a book. I'm not really someone who really rereads books, especially if, like, I've read it kind of recently. I'm not someone to just reread because it's like, I kind of remember it. And honestly, I think that's the case with this one, is that I don't think I really needed to reread this one. And that is Fullmetal Alchemist Omnibus version. So that's volumes 1, 2, and 3. By Hiromu Arakawa. You don't actually know what this story is about. I don't know how you've never heard, but just in case you have not heard, just in case, this manga series follows 2 boys who committed a sin, and they're trying to pretty much, not quite, is rectifying it? I think rectifying the mistake that they've made, with the fact that also affected their bodies. So they're trying to get back their bodies, and they pretty much have to be a part of the military in order to be able to access research, have money to travel, and all these things so that they can get back their bodies. But honestly, also, though, since I've also I've already read this volume, but I've also seen one of the anime adaptations, Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood, only to realize that actually I kind of remembered a lot about this one. There's definitely some things in here that are different than the anime. well, the anime adaptation that I've watched, there's things that anime adaptation couldn't include. There's just other small details here and there that they definitely have here. But in all honesty, I didn't really need to reread it. But I'm giving it and leaving the rating that I had when I first read it, 5 stars. This is just a 5-star read. It's definitely a favorite, but I definitely did not need to really reread it. But yeah, I definitely do recommend this but I love to say though, check the content warnings for all these volumes because there's definitely some dark things that happen. Even beforehand, it seems like lighthearted and stuff, which honestly, I don't see how this manga series has ever been considered as lighthearted. But there's definitely some dark things that happen here. There's death. There's murder. Later on, at least I remember from reading some other bits of the manga as well, there is going to be some parts of, like, ableism a little bit. So I just want to let y'all know about that. Honestly, I think that'll be kind of it that I can think of the top of my head as far as content warnings. But yeah, I definitely do recommend this manga series, though. It's an older one, but I think it really does stand the test of time as of right now. I think this is just something that, honestly, a lot of people should honestly read. If you haven't seen the anime, or if you have seen one of the anime adaptations, I still recommend reading the manga. You can still get something out of something that even the anime has already done before. So now let's get on to another book that I've also reread. Yeah, I reread another book, and this one, let's just get into it. In fact, I'm also going to get to the other books I've also read, because the next book after this one, too, is part of a series. So I've reread Teen Titans Beast Boy Loves Raven, by Cami Garcia and Gabriel Piccolo, who's the illustrator. And then I also finally read Robin, which is the 4th book in this series. So yes, for this series, there are 4 books. So there's the first book is following Raven. The second book is following Beast Boy. The 3rd book is Beast Boy Loves Raven. The 4th book, and this is the book that literally just came out like this year, like literally this month, was Robin. When I read Beast Boy Loves Raven, I initially gave that one 4 stars when I first read it, like 2 years ago. I read it in 2021. It was 2 years ago. It was when I first read the entire series and started to really like Gabriel Piccolo's art and his writing style, the writing style for the story and all that stuff. But now that I've reread it, honestly, I could definitely tell that my tastes have changed. It went from a 4, now it's a 3. So we definitely dipped. Now, the point of the story, the point of the series that I'm starting to realize is starting to shift a little bit is that we're supposed to be following the Teen Titans before they actually become Teen Titans. Like, the idea is, like, following the lines of, like, identity, kind of love, and found family. So we first started off with, like, knowing about Raven, her backstory, and, like, how she come to know about her powers. Same thing with Beast Boy. And then here, this is when they both have to meet someone in a city, but they kind of like met and then they fall in love and stuff in here, hence the title Beast Boy Loves Raven. And this one disappointed me, not because of the art style, because honestly the art style has definitely improved. Like, I was just skimming through like the first 2 books and saw that how Gabriel Piccolo's art style has definitely improved from the first 2 to like these 2 recent books, as far as like paneling and just coloring and all these other things regarding the actual art of this graphic novel series. So I definitely recommend this series if you want to go just for the art. It's definitely worth your while. But as far as the writing, I can definitely tell there's definitely some things about this graphic novel series, because this is also YA, and there's a lot about this series that actually just irked me. Like, I did not feel like I couldn't fully feel Beast Boy and Raven's love here. Like, I didn't understand. I didn't fully understand why they fell in love here. And even another side character, too, that she starts to become important in this book. And even in Robin as well. I didn't understand but her love. Like, I just don't understand a lot of the romantic relationships in here and in here, too. Because this one, also, there was a disappointment. For anticipated release, like, I've been looking forward to this since 2021. This one was also a disappointment. Like, this is a 3 stars. Both of these books are 3 stars. Which is like, how? And it's very clear that I think I might be a little bit too old for this series, because honestly, there's a lot of things regarding like that's very much giving YA for me, like, or maybe it's just the author's writing style I just could not care for. I still am very curious about like the overarching plot here as far as like this person and some of the bad guys and their antagonists. I'm still looking forward to that. I'm even looking forward to like the 5th book in the series, which will follow Starfire. So I'm looking forward to seeing that because I really want to see a little bit more about, you know, Starfire's backstory in this universe, how she will meet the rest of the gang as well, and all of that. So I'm definitely really looking forward to I still want to continue on with this series. I've already have the first 2, so I'm just going to continue on, but I'm just going to have to bring in with lower expectations because the writing here is just not it for me, which is so disappointing. I was really looking forward to really loving this series. But anyway, let's continue on with our disappointing train. Like what I told y'all in the beginning of this video. We had a little bit of a rocky start, but still solid start at the beginning, and then sometime in the middle of the month, it was just, we went downhill. We were going downhill. Because the next book I read, actually the next book I finished, was The Obelisk Gate by N.K. Jemisin. I read this one solely via audio. I didn't even bother hybrid reading it. I mean, I didn't even hybrid read the 5th season, but if you remember from the 5th season, I gave the 5th season 4.5 stars. This one? I struggled to rate this book. I struggled with rating this book. Now, if you don't know what this book is, this is the 2nd book in the Broken Earth trilogy, where, you know, we're following Esun, who's trying to find her daughter, because her son died was actually murdered, actually, for her husband, and we're in the stillness, and all these things just going on here, and I did not like this book, which is so... It's actually shocking and also disappointing and how much I genuinely did not like this book at all. I've never encountered I've never had a time where I read the sequel, the 2nd book in a series, and I disliked it this much. I gave this book here 2.75 stars. I couldn't even give it the grace of giving it 3. I really wanted to give it 3, but I couldn't do it. I just couldn't do it, and I don't know if I even could really properly explain why, but I don't know if it was just because of, like, some of the POV chapters we got here, or I just was more confused, but even as time went on throughout the month, the more I thought about it, the more I was just, like, not liking this book. There were things we get to learn about the world that I just couldn't care about. I started caring less about characters. I cared even less about the main protagonist, which is surprising because I really liked our main protagonist in the 1st book, so I don't know what happened here. And then we got added POVs on other characters that I actually cared less about, that I didn't even want to get POVs from. So honestly, I was just not having a good time. And I'm genuinely upset that I did not like this book. I wanted to really like this series. In fact, I wanted to be like everyone else who loved this series. But so far, the high for me for the 5th season was up here. Obelisk Gate, we're down here. So... And I even struggled to even bother finishing this book, but because of the fact that I already bought this book the same month, like, I literally got this and The Stone Sky this month. Earlier this month, actually. Earlier in March, I got these books. I just wanted to have them in the shut, because I was like, oh, I really like the 5th season, so that means I'm going to like the rest of the series. Only for me to counter, for the very first time in my life, the sequel in a series I actually disliked. So now I'm in a predicament where I'm like, well, then should I bother even continuing on with the series and just unhaul the entire series? Or should I push through and read The Stone Sky and at least finish this series? And I'm honestly on the fence. I don't know if I'm actually going to continue on with this series. This book really just irritated me so much to the point that I'm like, I don't know if I'm actually going to finish this series. Honestly, I don't know what I'm going to do. But anyway, stay tuned for April if I read The Stone Sky. If I don't, then y'all know what happened to this series. After that disappointing book over there, I wanted to read something that will at least make me feel like I did not read the most disappointing book so far this year. I read This Wound is a World by Bill Ray Belcourt. This is Belcourt's poetry debut, and this is a poetry collection just talking about love, loss, heartbreak, identity, indigenous culture, and what it means to really be indigenous. So, and also just to let you know, though, that Billy Ray Belcourt also is a two-spirit author. who's Canadian. It was a Canadian Indigenous author as well, so just to let y'all know about that too. And I gave this poetry collection 4.25 stars. This, I honestly really enjoyed. So, I actually really, really liked a lot of these poems. What was my favorite one? Okay, one of my favorites is an Elegy for Flesh. I really like that one. I also really... Where's the one? I'm trying to find this one. Why can't I... Okay. I think my favorite one... I don't know how to pronounce it, but we're gonna say it. The Cree word for a body like mine is Wisajika. Wisajika. Yeah. I think that was actually my favorite poem. I really, really like that one. I honestly really liked a lot of poems. And not every poem I connected with, and not every poem I understood. But this one, I really like. Billy Ray Belcourt, honestly, is just going to be one of my favorite authors. Because Belcourt's writing, Belcourt is a really good writer, but even a really great poet as well. And honestly, I do recommend anyone just to, read any of his works. Read this, read A Minor Chorus. I think Belcourt also has a couple other works, and I think there might be another one too next year. But I definitely have to keep an eye out for that one. But I don't know really what to say about this poetry collection, to be honest. I just know that this is amazing, spectacular. It's emotional, it's dark, it's challenging, and it definitely challenges on your beliefs when you actually genuinely think about what it means to be Indigenous, when so much of Indigenous history just tends to be such a lot about suffering and loss and heartbreak and trauma. So it's definitely a heavy, dark, challenging poetry collection, but I definitely do recommend it if you can handle that subject matter. And now another book that I read that I actually that honestly told me that I honestly do like to read books that are lighthearted. Because if you could definitely tell with some of my other reads, I tend to read some dark shit. So I was like, you know what? This month, let's read something light. And I read the Travelling Cat Chronicles. This was an enjoyable, lighthearted, but also sad audiobook. I read this one via audio. I don't have a physical copy of it, but maybe I will have a physical copy of it because I really liked it. This one follows the story of a man who found a stray cat that was hit by a truck, took care of it, became its owner, but had to somehow, for some reason, give the cat away. So the owner and this cat had to travel, again, hence Travelling Cat Chronicles, of finding another owner. But at first I thought, oh, this is going to be very light. This is nice and fluffy. This is so kind, so cute. Only to find that it has a very sad twist towards the end. And I'm just like, I did not come here for this, to be hurt in the heart like this. So, honestly, content warnings for, definitely content warnings on animal death in general, terminal illness. I think that might be it. I think that might be all the content warnings I can think of on the top of my head. But definitely those ones. Animal death in general, and terminal illness. So if that's something that's a little bit heavy or uncomfortable for you, then probably not check this one out. But it's still short, though. The audiobook was 6 hours long. And I actually gave this one 4.75 stars. It was almost a 5-star. Almost. So close. My only gripe with this audiobook was the narrator's voice. I did not like the fact that this narrator had a British accent. It honestly was taking me out of the story, the first half. The first 50% of this audiobook, I was just like, why is this narrator sounding British? It takes place in Japan. Why are you British? Oh gosh, I'm sorry, but why? I cannot. I was not having it. I was not having it in the first half. The second half, I just got used to it. It could have been a 5-star. But maybe if I read it physically, I wouldn't have that problem. But otherwise, no. But anyways, that was that. So we get to another book, though, that was also an anticipated release for March. And I finally read Last Violent Call by Chloe Gong. If you were here for one of my impromptu afternoon sprints, I think, in March, you will see that I was reading This Foul Murder, which also, Last Violent Call is a part of the big Secret Shanghai Universe series, which includes These Fine Delights, Our Violent Ends, Foul Lady Fortune, Last Final Call, and then the final book in the Foul Lady Fortune duology, which is also the final book in this set in this universe, Foul Heart Huntsman. So if you read this, you have to read These Fine Delights, Our Violent Ends, and Foul Lady Fortune, because even though in this box set of novellas, because this is the box set, but it actually consists of 2 separate novellas. The first novella is A Foul Thing, which, as you can see here, you see Roma and Juliet. Now, in this one, this takes place during Foul Lady Fortune, and I think this follows a case of like Russian girls going missing and also dying, and it followed the mystery. So this is also like just a straight up just mystery of like why they were disappearing and going dead, and finding out that's actually a lot more closer to home for them. And then in this foul murder, we're following Benedict and Marshall, who are in Moscow, but then they have to go find someone after the events of A Foul Thing. And this one actually takes place during Foul Heart Huntsman. And I'm trying my best not to really spoil too much on all of this. But if you definitely read only the These Fine Delights and you haven't read Our Violent Ends, then yeah, you're going to be confused as to what all this happens. Especially if you don't read Foul Lady Fortune too, because all this stuff that's happened in the original duology and in Foul Lady Fortune makes sense when you get to like these ones as well. And honestly, I had a great time. I was having a great time with this, with these novellas. These are, hence the title of Last Final Call. You would think that there's a lot of dark tricks, a lot of traumatic stuff that Chloe Gunn be doing, because, that's what she be doing. That's what she does to us. But she was gracious enough to give us some fluff. Despite this being dealing with murders and death and set in the Secret Shanghai Universe, she gave us the courtesy of having our 4 characters that we finally come back to see after reading the original duology to have some lots of cozy, happy, lighthearted moments, which I really, really needed. After reading Foul Lady Fortune, I'm just like, why? But then here I was like, okay, is this actually going to be fluff? Is it really going to be fluff? I can now guarantee to all the Chloe Gong fans that this is actually truly fluff. She did not trick us. She didn't trick us. It is fluff. It is some good times. I read A Foul Thing, which follows Roma and Juliet, and I was like, dang, I honestly forgot how much fun it is to read these 2 in a book. Oh gosh, I miss Juliet. She's a badass as always, and she's so funny. And then Roma is such a sweet, stern, but gentle giant. Like, I actually completely forgot how much I missed those 2. But of course, though, I was here for Benedict and Marshall, though. I was here for those 2. They were my OTP from These Fine Delights, y'all. Okay, I love those 2 so much. My heart, Marshall. Oh gosh, I've missed Marshall, and I've definitely missed Benedict. Oh gosh, Ben and Mars always be my OTP for real. But yes, I really like this book. I really like these novellas, and now I cannot wait until I read Foul Heart Huntsman. So, yeah, if you couldn't tell, I gave this box set 5 stars. I gave each individual novella 5 stars, so averaged out to 5 in general. So, yes, definitely recommend reading the entire Secret Shanghai Universe. Although, if you do read Foul Lady Fortune, it obviously would spoil These Fine Delights and Our Violent Ends. But if you read Foul Lady Fortune and then read this, and you've never read These Fine Delights or Our Violent Ends, honestly, I think the novellas itself would give you enough information for what you would need to know that already happened from These Fine Delights and Our Violent Ends. So you honestly don't need to read those 2. That duology if you've already read Foul Lady Fortune, but you still need to read Foul Lady Fortune in order to read this, because otherwise you're going to get confused. And now for my next read as well, that was also an anticipated release, which I was so happy that I also got in the mail. I finally read and finally obtained Spy Family Volume 9. So I can't really talk too much as far as the events here, but if you've never heard of Spy Family, which is fine if you haven't heard much about this one, because it is a newer one, so the entire manga series follows a spy named Twilight, but he has gone on a mission where he needs to pretty much prevent a possible war, but in order to do that, he needs to have a family. He needs to create a fake family. So he needs a wife and a child, which the child will be going into a school and then other things. There's just a lot of stuff. But the father is the spy, who's our main protagonist, Twilight. Then we have Yor, who's the mother, but Twilight does not know that Yor is an assassin. And his daughter, Anya, he has no idea that she is a telepath. The only one who actually knows what's even going on is Anya, because of the fact that she has telepathy and she doesn't tell anyone. And it's a fun time. I honestly love this manga series so much. And I gave this particular volume 4.5 stars. It concludes the arc that started in volume 8. And then we got some other stuff going on here as well. A lot of fun family bonding time. We get to see a lot of just other characters. Definitely some character development, some here and there. Some funny shenanigans that was here as well. And some cool character dynamics. And I'm definitely looking forward to volume 10. Which I found out that it actually will be coming out in October. Which I'm definitely looking forward to. Because after the ending of volume 9, it's definitely going to be focusing on some... let's just say that volume 10 will be some dark stuff. I've already even seen the cover for volume 10. And yeah, we're going to have some pretty dark stuff in there. Pretty dark stuff. But it's pretty much, I won't say long overdue, but I'm definitely looking forward to reading volume 10. And I do recommend reading this manga series in general. It's definitely a cute, fun time. And why not? And now the next book I've also read. This one... I haven't heard a lot of people talk about, but I was really looking forward to reading this one. And it is called Bloom Into You. This is volume 1. Now, this one follows the story of Yu, who has always adored shoujo manga, which, if you don't know what shoujo manga is pretty much manga geared towards young girls. That also tends to be pretty stereotypically known for being more romance heavy. And that's kind of what Yu has been expecting. That Yu is this pink-haired girl here. She's expecting that, I'm going to one day, fall in love and have someone fall in love with me and all that stuff. I'm going to have all the feelings. Except that in junior high, a boy confessed to her and she felt nothing. And then now she's in high school as a freshman, as a first year. And then we have this girl here. What was her name? Nanami, who is a student council member. And she's actually the next person that confesses to you. So it's like, okay, so then does this mean a love story? I only want to pick this up because of 2 reasons. One of my siblings already just had the first volume for some reason. I don't know how they had it, but they just had it. And 2, I heard, or I think I saw somewhere on Instagram, because this manga series also has an anime adaptation. But I just heard that someone who watched the anime adaptation saw that these characters here are pretty much A-spec coded. Like, they're very much arrow, A-spec around there. Maybe asexual, aromantic around there, somewhere around there. Most likely aromantic, to be honest. I would have to say that I did not like this. I wanted to. I really wanted to. I gave this one 2 stars. This is definitely the lowest rated book I have read this month, and also so far this year. This is the lowest rated book. I don't think this is really good, to be honest. Which is very disappointing. I had high hopes for it, actually. I was looking forward to, a manga series featuring characters that are, A-spec coded. Like, they could be arrow, ace-ish. I thought it'd be a good time. Only for me to be, pretty uncomfortable about the implications between these 2 girls here. Nanami has given a few instances of her having pretty non-consensual behavior. There was actually a non-consensual kiss that I was not here for. I was like, nope. So, content warning for a non-consensual kiss here, which is pretty much just sexual assault. It's a minor thing. She has apologized for it, but no, I was not here for it. In fact, Nanami is actually I don't care too much about Nanami either as a character. Even as a person, I don't care about her. Yu is interesting, but I don't think she's really aware of the kind of behavior that Nanami is. I mean, she is aware of the fact that she's definitely pushy and kind of judgmental. Quite about it, but she is pretty much judgmental about it. Because Nanami is very much well-liked and popular in the student body. And then Yu's the only one, I guess, who just sees Nanami as, like, just as simply as a person who's flawed. But, yeah. I mean, I think it's supposed to be, this is supposed to be a romance one as well. So I do think they will be pretty much be endgame. I'm not looking forward to it, though. I'm really not looking forward to them being endgame. I did want to see, like, how long the series is. This is only 8 volumes long. I was thinking to myself, you know what? Maybe I could actually read those volumes. But, like, do I really want to waste my time reading those volumes? Honestly, no. I genuinely would prefer to watch the anime, but I don't even know if I even would like to watch the anime. I might even be more irritated in the anime than the manga. All I know is that I do not recommend this. I'm unhauling this. This was actually kind of a waste. But honestly, we're going to get to the last and final book that I read this month. That I finished yesterday. So, as I'm recording this. So, we have The Art of Dying by Ambrose Parry. The sequel to The Way of All Flesh. And I give The Way of All Flesh, I think, 5 stars. I read that one in January. This one, I gave 4.75. If you don't know what this series is about, which honestly I won't be surprised because not a lot of people have talked about this series on anywhere in the book community at all. It makes me wonder, like, dang, this is actually pretty underhyped. I actually do believe that more people need to be reading this series because, well, we're already all doing. But anyways, this series pretty much follows Will Raven, who's an apprentice, or pretty much just someone who's going to be medicine, especially with midwifery. But, you know, like women and delivering pregnancies and delivering babies and all that stuff. And then we have Sarah Fisher, who works for Dr. Simpson, who is pretty much just a doctor of midwifery, I guess, in Edinburgh, Scotland, during the 1840s. This book takes place in 1849, so a couple years after The Way of All Flesh. So in this one, though, we definitely have a lot more. We're following more on history here. Because there's definitely some events that actually happened. Because Dr. James Young Simpson is actually a actual doctor in history. And the things that happened to him have definitely taken place here. The only thing that, you know, that's different, that's also not historically what actually happened is, you know, Will and Sarah's inclusion here. But I will have to say that I really, really like this one. I really like I actually like the fact that we had a prologue and an epilogue, and we had POV chapters of the murderer. And it was very obvious, because in the prologue, I think the prologue made it pretty obvious that the murderer would be a woman. It made it very, very clear that it would be a woman. So we already knew it would not be a man. And it made a pretty big point on the fact of, like, sexism during this time period in this place of Edinburgh and during the 1840s. And how women are just very much seen as, well, incapable of doing atrocities. They had to be seen as delicate, nurturing, and gentle creatures, but not possible for them to be murderers, you know, which is very, that's not very good thinking. Then again, that's just because of the sexism, which honestly is very, very blatant. There's definitely a lot of sexism here. There's also death here as well. A lot of death. Medical content as well, just like the first book. I will also content warning as well for child death, because there's definitely been times when a few children have died under this murderer's hand. And actually, the murder was based off of a real murderer during this time period as well in Edinburgh. So, yeah, there's actually a page in the end here that talks about the historical context, basically, during this time period. Well, this is actually based off of a real actual murderer in time, in history, I mean. And I also really liked seeing Will and Sarah's relationship here. I was actually kind of really pretty worried about the relationship here. But I understand for why it is the way it is here in this novel, especially towards the end. And I'm actually really happy that for Sarah, because she really wants to go into medicine. Like, there are very few women who are actually physicians. You know, there are women, you know, who are nurses or just midwives, but they're not really a physician. You know, it's very different. It's actually very, very difficult. And Sarah wants to pursue that. And I want that for her. She's very much intelligent. She's very observant. And she obtains knowledge regarding medicine very attentively. And I think she'll be a great physician. She'll be a great doctor. I want her to be Dr. Sarah Fisher, which I'm hoping that will happen. I'm hoping. And then we have Will, who's also a doctor here now. And see, like, for him as well, that he's definitely, I see some character development here. He's definitely grown as someone, not just as like a doctor, but also just even as a man in general. And like seeing how you can't have your pride block your way for getting what you want. And what people really think about you and your reputation. I understand if you're not like a particular standing, social standing, or economic standing, that can be very hard for him, especially during this time period, which I've definitely am starting to realize it's definitely a lot more a thing for him. But you have to be willing to actually just not be caring about what other people will think about you, you know? Especially out of from the things that you really would love, you know, or the people you love, you know? Just saying, free will, you know? But I definitely am looking forward to reading book 3, which is A Corruption of Blood. But, yeah, that's, let me just get all the books. This is all the books that I've read, well, plus some 2 audiobooks that I don't have here. But this is pretty much all the physical books I have right here for my March wrap-up. So, that's all I read in March. It's pretty heavy. Let me just put this all down. I gotta put this all down. Oh, gosh. But anyways, thank you all for coming on to this video and listen to me ramble on and all these books that I read in March. And also thank you all again for also coming to my channel. Not just for this video, but for anyone who's seen my last wrap up and part of my reading sprints. I do hope to get some more videos in April that are not just reading sprints in this wrap up. I don't know though. I don't want to make any promises, but anyways, thank you all again. If you want to see more content of me or just see where I am in the social media world, definitely go to the description where I have my link tree, all my links. If you've come this far into the video and you want to leave, if you're not sure what to comment down below, leave me the skull emoji for like the art of dying and like Harrow the Ninth, and then the call thing for last violent call. Anyways, thank you again for coming on to this video, and I will hope to see you all in the next one. Bye!